Hey everybody, welcome to Crack Pack Tuesday number 31. I'm John as always, and we've got some more Battle for Zendikar with Mr. Gideon on the front to open up and see what we would take. Pack 1, pick 1 in a draft. Up first, we've got ourselves a Call of the Scions. Not Call of the Scions, like I continuously try to type it into Deckbox when I'm doing my inventorying, but Call of the Scions. 2 and a green to make yourself 2 Scions. Totally fine in the blue-green ramp deck, in the red-green ramp deck, in the green-X ramp deck. Even in the green-black sort of colorless-ish matters deck, it's fine. Unfortunately, green tends to be a little bit weak, but if you do want this card, you should be able to get it. It should be around. I think people are starting to realize this isn't quite the most consistent and best deck out there. So if you want this, I think you can get this. Certainly not first pick. Next up, we've got Merc Strider. This is looking a lot like last week's pack. I think we've got the same print run here. 3 and a blue for a creature Eldrazi Processor. 3 and a 2, process a card when it enters the battlefield to bounce a creature. I like bouncing things. Bouncing stuff is amazing tempo. Tempo is the best. I love out-tempoing people. People at my local store would probably attest to the amount of things that I bounce and how annoying it can be. But it's effective, so I keep doing it. As long as you can make sure that you have a card in exile, as long as you have a Mist Intruder, or a Salvage Drone, or a Culling Drone, or even a Spell Shrivel on turn 3 will get you something exiled, then this should be fine and should be online. Even later in the game, it's really nice to bounce something they spent a lot of mana on, or hopefully even spent some Scions on, so they're not going to be able to recast it for a while. This can get you some huge tempo. And it's a 3-2, which is a totally fine body to be left behind. I like Merc Strider. I don't think I'd ever take it first pick. Next up, we've got Boiling Earth. This is a 1 and a red sorcery. Boiling Earth deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. You can awaken 4 if you pay 6 and a red as well. This is a sideboard only card. I've seen some people main deck this, and I think that is a massive mistake. I think you should only ever sideboard this, and only when you see that you're up against a Scion army deck or an army of X1s. White has an awful lot of X1s. Red has a decent amount of X1s. If you see yourself up against that, if you think that you can get kind of like a I would say a 3-for-1. If you think you can hit 3 things with this, then you probably want to sideboard it in. I might even do it if I think I could hit 2, and if you can hit more, then this just becomes super good. I don't super think you're going to awaken this too often, because by the time you're at 7 mana in red, your opponent's probably way done with the X1s. This is really going to be cast for 1 in a red the majority of the time, and usually around turn 4 or 5, maybe even 6. So I don't think the Awaken has any real impact on my value of this card, but it is a pure sideboard card, so you're never going to first pick it. You're going to take it when you're in red, and it's the only thing there for you. Next up, we've got Lithomancer's Focus. This is a single white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creature this turn by colorless sources. This is a fine card. It's gone down a little bit in my valuation. It's not God's Willing. It's not Focus. What was the cons one? I can't remember what the cons one was. Yeah, it's completely lost me. But it's not quite as powerful as the previous single white mana instance that we have that sort of protect your creatures. It will save your creatures through a fair number of things. It will save them in a number of combat situations or in some burn situations. But it's not quite getting protection from everything. So it's gone down a little bit for me. I would still take it and play it if I was in white and it was one of the last few cards in the pack for me. But I'm not as excited by it, and it's certainly not first pick. Spell Shrivel. I've had a lot of good use out of Spell Shrivel. 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 4 colorless mana. If that spell gets countered, you get to exile the card. It's relatively rare that your opponent's going to have 4 mana. It's going to have to be very late into the game, and they're going to have to be casting a 2 or 3 or maybe 4 drop for this to be able to be paid. There's been a few times where I've had this card and I have had to just sit there and not play it because my opponent could pay for it. But the vast majority of the time, I've been able to counter whatever I want. And I'm a very big fan of playing this on turn 3 or turn 4 and, hitting something that's maybe not their bomb, but just really putting them off their game, just really kind of tempoing them out. Pairing this with a turn 4 Merc Strider to bounce their creature that's on board is a huge tempo hit. I'm pretty happy with Spell Shrivel, and I'll take them relatively highly. I would never first pick it, but if I'm blue and I get past one of these, I'm going to take it and I'm going to start going down a controlling path. Well, even more control. Complete disregard. 2 and a black for an instant. Exile target creature with power 3 or less. I remember some people being a little bit off on this at the start because 3 or less, this is the Eldrazi format. Everything's going to be a 10-10, right? No, the Eldrazi aren't that common. I mean, we've seen an Eldrazi already, and it was a 3-2. This is going to hit an awful lot of things, and at instant speed, it's just super good. It exiles the thing, which means it's going to power your processors in black-blue process. Just a super, super, super good card. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Complete Disregard. It's not unconditional like Grip of Desolation is, but it's 3 mana, instant speed. It's huge. It's super good. Take this card highly. More removal. This is the removal pack, apparently. Scour from Existence, 7 mana for an instant. Exile target permanent, 7 colorless mana. This is expensive. This is very expensive. You have to be in a very late game deck. You have to be in a deck that knows that it's going to get to 7 mana, either through ramping or through just board stalling or complete disregarding or spell shriveling or something like that. I would take this card very late. I'm not even sure I would take this card in pack 1 because I wouldn't be confident enough that I was a deck that could get that late. I could start building towards it, but I would take this very low in pack 1 and only start to take it a bit more highly in pack 2 and pack 3 if I knew I was in that deck. It's a good card. It's a powerful effect. That's why it costs 7, but you have to be careful. Don't play this just all willy-nilly in any deck. Next up, we've got Tajuru Beastmaster, the worst of the Tajuru, I think. 5 and a green for a creature elf warrior ally. It's a 5/5. It's got Rally. Give your team +1/+1. Fairly solid, but certainly not Tajuru Warcaller. +2/+2 to the team is huge. +1/+1 to the team is often just kind of a, okay, I guess. It's kind of cool. If you have a sufficiently wide board, it can be a good effect, but you need a hugely, hugely wide board, and I mean wide enough that you should already be dominating the game anyways. Beastmaster, not a big fan of it, to be honest. Certainly not first pickable. Next up, we've got Wavewing Elemental. This is the expensive /control pack. Another 6-drop, 5 and a blue for a creature elemental. It's a 3/4. It's got flying, and it's got the +2/+2 landfall trigger. So sometimes it is a 5/6 flyer, which is big, quite beefy. You're probably going to only activate it a couple times after you're already at 6 mana, but that's all you really need if you're getting through for that 5 damage in the air. I like Wavewing Elemental, and I will usually play one unless I'm in some sort of hyper-aggressive deck, but they don't stack well, so I would probably never play 2, and I certainly prefer some other flyers in this format over it. Definitely not first pickable. First on common, we've got Void Attendant, 2 and a green for a creature Eldrazi processor. It's a 2/3, and you can pay 1 and a green and process a card to get a Scion. I originally said that with the processors, I really, really, really preferred and liked the repeatable ones, the ones where I could do this over and over and over and over. Well, you have to have an awful lot of ingest for that to actually work, and green is not where that's going to happen. That's going to happen most reliably in blue-black. You're going to have to pair this card with black or with blue, and blue-green ingest process isn't all that good. You're looking for blue-green ramp, although this sort of does ramp, but you're kind of meshing 2 archetypes there. And in black-green, it's still not quite what you want to do. Void Attendant has just been really, 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 really underwhelming for me. There's so much other processing that I would prefer to do than to just make a Scion. I'd love to see this work. I'd love to see a deck where this really goes off well, but I have not seen it yet, so I'm kind of out on Void Attendant. Slab Hammer, 2 colorless for an artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. If you do, the creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Equip cost of 2. A number of people at my store love this card because there have been some massive games with people playing this on landfall creatures and, just getting huge, crazy triggers happening. But it's not common. There's a lot of times where the creature just dies, or there's no good creature for Slabhammer to go onto, or bouncing a land would hurt their mana base enough. So I'm not sold on this as much as some people are. I've seen it used to some good use. I have been killed with this being put to some good use, but I still don't ever want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. If you've had some good experiences with Slabhammer, definitely let me know, but I'm super out on this card. Final uncommon is another one that I don't super like. Retreat to Coral Helm. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Landfall. Whenever you play a land, you can either tap or untap target creature, or you can scry one. I don't like this because scrying is something you do to usually get rid of lands. You know, if I'm on turn 6 and I've got 6 lands out and there's a land on top of my library, that goes to the bottom. Which means that I'm willingly, purposefully turning off this enchantment that I spent a card slot on, that I spent 3 mana on, that I spent a turn casting. That's really fighting against itself, and I really don't like it. As well, tapping or untapping target creature is great if it's consistent, or if you can do it multiple times, but here you get to do it one time on your turn if you play a land, and that's really inconsistent as well. This card just seems like a total miss to me. There's some retreats that I like, but this is just not one of them, so I'm out on this as well. Let's see if our rare saves us. Veteran War Leader, 1 green-white for a human soldier ally. It's a star. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of creatures you control, and you can tap another untapped ally you control to give Veteran War Leader first strike, vigilance, or trample, whichever one you want. And of course, you could tap 2 to give it trample and first strike or something like that. Veteran War Leader is pretty solid. It would be broken if it was red-white. Green-white allies is a little bit weaker. It's basically just to Drew Warcaller and not really anything else. In fact, I most commonly see it as red-white-green allies, with green just being a slight little splash. If this was red, I would love this card, but being green, I haven't seen it put to much use. I haven't played with it yet, but I just haven't seen it be used all that much. I've seen it on the other side of my of the battlefield and never been super concerned. I've seen it as big as a 5/5, but I've always been able to just kill the other creatures to make it weaker, or just kill it somehow, or stuff really kind of goes wrong in almost all the times that I've seen Veteran War Leader on the other side of the table. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a good card or not. I think the green-white combination does hurt it a bit, but I would have to play with it to really get a good feel on it. But for now, I'm just kind of a little bit out on it. Do we have a foil? We do. It's a foil Mercstrider and nothing else in the pack. Really weird looking foil. It looks very dim and dark. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera. I've talked about Mercstrider. We've got one sitting right here, so I don't need to rehash that. So yeah, in this pack, we have Veteran War Leader, we have Complete Disregard, and I think that's about it. I wouldn't pick Spell Shrivel first as much as I like it. So out of these two, I'm not kind of totally sold. It's almost like last week's situation of, do we take the removal, do we take the splashy rare? In this case, I do think I would just take the removal. Veteran War Leader, as I said, has been kind of inconsistent and not terribly threatening the times that I've seen it on the other side of the battlefield. Complete Disregard sucks to have being played on the other side of the battlefield, and I love playing with it on my side of the battlefield. It just kills whatever you want that has power 3 or less. And there is a lot of things that have power 3 or less. Even at the 4-drop slot, even at the 5-drop slot, there are some 3/5s and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that Complete Disregard hits, so don't discount it. Don't think that this just hits 2 drops or 3 drops. It does hit much more. But that's going to be my pick. I'm going to take the kind of boring removal pick. Let me know what you would have taken. Would you have taken Veteran War Leader? Has it performed really well for you? Would you have taken a foil Mercstrider or maybe even a Slabhammer? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below, as I said. Please like and subscribe to my videos. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.